The real reason you don't have hobbies anymore has nothing to do with being lazy or boring or not having enough time. It's actually a nervous system thing. And once you understand what's going on, finding hobbies that stick becomes so much easier. So let me break this down for you in today's video. If you're new here, I'm Veronika, and for many years of my life, the only hobby I had was work. That was literally it. If somebody asked me what I did for fun, I genuinely didn't have an answer. And the way I would rest after a long day was scrolling every single evening because I thought that was me relaxing. What I didn't understand back then, and I do now, is that scrolling isn't rest. It's actually keeping your nervous system activated the whole time, which is why you can scroll for 2 hours and feel absolutely drained after. So that's what I talk about on this channel: fighting brain rot, building better dopamine habits, and actually learning how to take care of your nervous system. Also, I put together a free PDF with over 50 creative hobby ideas, organized by category with tips on how to start each one for free or really cheap. We're gonna talk about it more at the end of the video, but just so you know, the link is already in the description if you wanna grab it now. Okay, so let's start with why you actually lost your hobbies, because it's probably not what you think. What I hear a lot from you guys right now is this: in high school, I did gymnastics, theater, crafts, photography. Now I'm 28 with no hobbies. I go to work at 8 a.m. and I get home at 6 p.m. My free time is spent in between chores and scrolling. I don't have any passion for hobbies anymore. And this is such a common thing right now. And I really want you guys to know that you're not alone here. We all have different ages, different jobs, but the same story. You used to do things, you used to create things, and now nothing. And so the first thing I really want you to understand is that it's not laziness. And this isn't you being boring. The most likely explanation is that your nervous system is just fried, and we absolutely have to talk about it first. When you're running on empty, when everything feels overwhelming, your brain doesn't want hobbies. It's completely natural. It wants rest. It wants to do nothing. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means that your body is trying to protect you from burnout. If you have zero desires for hobbies, the first step might not be adding more to your life. It might be addressing what's draining you first and working on healing your nervous system. And also know when you're scrolling, you're not resting, and I'm always gonna say that. Scrolling feels passive, but it's actually keeping your nervous system in this low-grade agitation all the time because of constant novelty hits, and the algorithm is pulling you in, and the constant comparison, all of that. Like, you're not truly resting when you're just scrolling the feed. So if you realize right now that yes, hobbies just sound exhausting, I really need to first focus on protecting my nervous system, maybe the first step for you is going to be replacing scrolling with actual rest, with silence, with boredom even, with doing absolutely nothing for at least 5-10 minutes. Not putting another should on your checklist because you're probably already overwhelmed by all of the things going on in your life, and so now you're trying to add a hobby to that checklist of things that you need to do every single day, and that is probably making you even more agitated and more stressed. And hobbies should come from this genuine desire, not obligation, not because everyone else is doing it online, so that's why you need to have a bunch of different hobbies too. Hobbies are not a productivity checkbox. It's something that you do for you when you feel like it. It's not another thing that you need to track. Now I want to share this super interesting research with you guys that actually explains why we feel so much better when we're practicing a hobby versus scrolling or watching TV. So there was a psychologist named Csikszentmihalyi who spent decades studying when people feel happiest. And what he discovered was actually people were not the happiest when they were relaxing and doing nothing. They were happiest when they were deeply absorbed in something, a hobby, a creative project, even challenging work. Because I think a lot of us have this misconception that if we're working on something hard and challenging, we are not feeling the best, we're not feeling the happiest. Not always. And Csikszentmihalyi called this concept flow. He was the exact person who recognized and named the psychological concept, and he even wrote a book with the exact same name. His research showed that people felt consistently happier during hobbies than just passive activities like watching TV. But they still chose TV more often because TV is easier. It requires nothing from you. There is no friction, exactly like with social media. But if you really think about it, it also gives you nothing back. We're literally choosing the thing that makes us feel worse long term because our nervous system is too tired to focus on the present moment, to choose the thing that will actually make us feel better. And that is the cycle that we're all living through every single day. And hobbies are a way out of it, but only if you have enough energy to actually want them, which brings me to resting and knowing how to rest properly. Okay, so now I hope that you understand that you can rewire your brain, that the things that you do every single day, they shape how you feel. The next question becomes, okay, but what am I rewiring it with? Because if you're not choosing your inputs intentionally, your environment will choose them for you. And that includes the content you consume. Now I'm trying to be so much more intentional with what I read and consume on a daily basis, and I've been really loving the newsletter What Counts. And I want to say a huge thank you to them for sponsoring today's video. What Counts is a free weekly newsletter, so they send you an email that breaks down the science of self-improvement. But not in this shallow way, not by saying that you just need to wake up earlier and be more disciplined. It actually goes into how your brain works, how habits form, and how you can improve your focus and performance in a way that actually makes sense. And this connects with what we just talked about. Instead of filling your time with random, passive content, replacing some of that with something that can actually help you understand yourself better. That's part of being intentional with your inputs. So if you want to check out What Counts, it's completely free. You can go to whatcounts.io/Veronika or scan this QR code on the screen. When you sign up, you also get a free report on the sleep habits of 32 world-class athletes and how they optimize their performance. Plus, they're doing a $100 Amazon gift card giveaway for you guys. One person who signs up will win. So if you want to sign up and get weekly emails from What Counts, all the information is going to be linked in the description. Alright, so now we talked about why you lost your hobbies and what's going on with your nervous system. Let's get into how to find the hobbies that are right for you. I think there are 3 really good ways to figure out what's actually going to stick for you. The first method that I love to use is something that I call the childhood compass. Your childhood can really point you towards your true hobbies. The things that you were really passionate about when you were a kid could be something that you're gonna enjoy doing right now. But the thing that I really want you to focus on right now is not the exact activity you were doing when you were a kid, but the feeling that you really enjoyed. And so this is something we're trying to notice and use as our guide. Let's see, in my case, I did gymnastics when I was a kid for 10 years very competitively. And to be honest, there were a lot of things about gymnastics that I loved, even though some of the parts were pretty traumatic. If I think about gymnastics, I do get very positive feelings as well. And so that was my guide to actually help me figure out what I wanted to do when it came to my exercising, working out routine. Because that feeling underneath it all stayed. The feeling of loving flexibility, feeling really connected to my body, feeling strong and flexible at the same time. That is something that I enjoy the most when it comes to any form of movement, working out, this combination of being strong and flexible at the same time. So that feeling, figuring it out, helped me discover yoga, handstands, and that is something that I do right now. I even became a yoga teacher. I love it that much. So the question I want to ask you guys here is this. Think back to something that made you feel totally absorbed. What was the feeling underneath? Was it creative? Was it challenging? Was it physical? And that feeling is is the clue, not the specific activity. Well, maybe for some of you guys, it is going to be the exact match. The things that you love doing as a kid, you're continuing doing them right now. But for many of us, it's going to be something else, like a different form, but the feeling stays the same. When I was working on understanding all of those feelings I still remembered from doing gymnastics, I actually decided to try ballet at some point, but to be honest, I didn't really like it. Even though ballet is also all about flexibility and insane strength. And that's okay. Oftentimes it's going to be a journey. It's gonna take you a few attempts. That is why I talked about your nervous system at the very beginning, because if you're overwhelmed and tired and your schedule is packed, you're probably not gonna want to dedicate all of that time and energy to figure out like what this feeling is really connected to. So that's why you should first prioritize your nervous system regulation and then go into this exploration mode and find the hobbies that you're gonna really love. Alright, so the next method that I like to use is called the Daydream Compass. This method is great because it helps you realize that daydreaming is not random and it's actually very, very useful for you. It's your intuition showing you a version of yourself that you're drawn towards. And that can help you figure out what your hobbies are. For example, with my handstand journey, I remember in the past, I was always fascinated by people who could do a handstand, who did calisthenics, and like I would see those people in parks and I would be like, wow, like I really want to do that, but it just seemed really hard and like something that only superhumans can do. And it's really interesting to me because a few weeks ago I had a Spanish class with my teacher and I was telling her about like my handstands and all of those things, and she showed me a video on TikTok where a guy was teaching people how to do a one-arm handstand, I believe, which is really hard. And somebody in the comments said, that will take me like 3 years to learn. Probably even more. And the creator responded by saying, the time will pass anyway. This is honestly such a huge mindset shift, because whether you spend the next 10 years learning to do a one-arm handstand or just scrolling social media, the time passes the same. But in one version, you're someone who can do a one-arm handstand, and in the other, you're not. So with our hobbies, we're not trying to wait for the perfect conditions because the process itself is the point. And if there's anything you're daydreaming about, it's not just random noise. That's your future you trying to get your own attention. And maybe, just maybe, it's worth listening to. And method number 3 that I like to use sometimes is the AI curriculum method. It's really great for people who love structure. You can ask AI to create a curriculum for you, just like when you were in high school, at your university, and you had like a curriculum that you had to follow, assign readings. You can do the same thing with AI. Instead of just randomly jumping from book to book, from movie to like another documentary, you can ask AI to create a structured plan for you connected to a specific topic. Let's say right now I'm really interested in nervous system regulation and dopamine research, so I asked AI to create this structured curriculum for me with like all the books and documentaries and movies that I could watch. The exact prompt that I used and also all of the details of this method are going to be linked in the Hobbies document that I shared at the very beginning of this video. Alright, so now I want to talk about the 2 biggest traps we fall into when we start trying new hobbies. And all of these traps are honestly connected to perfectionism, and they cause this perfectionism paralysis that I like to talk about on my YouTube channel. So the first trap is the money trap, because social media turned absolutely all the hobbies into consumerism. Because of TikTok, coloring became this super expensive thing. You need specific coloring books, markers that cost a fortune. And if you just like to draw and paint, you can't start with what you already have. You feel all of this pressure to invest into something that costs a lot. Personally, I think that spending money is not a requirement. Obviously, it's going to depend on a specific hobby, but a lot of us are returning to hobbies that we used to do in the past before doom scrolling became our primary after work thing. And so most likely you already have a lot of the supplies you need. And also if you do realize that you need to purchase something, please don't think that you need to spend above your means just to get started. I don't want the need for proper supplies to become the reason that you never start. Use what you have, start for free, start cheap, because you can always upgrade later if you realize that you actually love it. The second trap that a lot of us fall into is the comparison trap. We see someone who's been practicing this hobby for 10 years and we immediately think that our beginner version of it is embarrassing. And that kills hobbies before they even start. With my yoga journey, yes, sometimes I can do a really complicated, a really beautiful pose, but sometimes I feel so tired and like I'm shaking like a washing machine. It doesn't always look aesthetic. It's not always cute. I'm sweating, I'm turning red, but I am continuing on this journey because of the feeling, not because of how it looks, not because, oh wow, I can record a beautiful video. No, because I just love it and it makes me feel great. It helps me with my physical health and with my mental health. So the sooner you find something that you enjoy purely for how it feels, not for how it looks, not for their Instagram version, the sooner you will have a real hobby. Alright, so now I want to share this super useful principle with you guys that I really hope is going to help you start and stick with your hobbies. The low entry principle. When you're coming back to hobbies after years of feeling depleted, the barrier to start needs to be almost zero. But obviously, because of the comparison, the perfectionist, social media trap, we don't actually do that. We actually place extremely high and unrealistic expectations on ourselves to practice a hobby. So instead of saying, I'm going to learn watercolor, maybe say, I'll doodle for 10 minutes while my coffee cools down. Instead of, I'm going to start journaling, I'll write 3 things I'm grateful for before bed. Instead of, I'm getting back into reading, I'll spend 10 minutes reading a book that I really like. Because I know, let's be honest, most of you guys, when you want to start reading, you go on Book Talk and you buy a bunch of different books that people are recommending, and then all of those books just stay in your room, dusty, and you never even open them. When your nervous system is fried, when you're constantly exhausted, even fun things can feel like too much, especially if they require a lot of things to get started. So start so small that it barely feels like a hobby. If we really think about it, your hobbies shape who you are becoming. And right now, for a lot of people, their identity is basically, I'm a person who works and scrolls. And that is something that shapes their days. And if you want to get out of that loop and start doing something for you, hobbies are great because they give you those pieces of yourself back. They're those small daily choices that say, I'm someone who creates, I'm someone who moves, I'm someone who learns. This isn't about being productive. It's about being whole. It's about reconnecting with yourself. It's about remembering that there is so much more to you than just work and survival. And I know what I'm talking about because that is how I lived for so many years of my life. If you're ready to discover your new favorite hobby, I highly recommend checking out my free document with over 50 hobby ideas, all organized by category. I really try to include some creative twists on classic hobbies that people often forget about. I also share low cost and low barrier ideas, plus the full AI curriculum prompt at the end. For example, I want to share with you guys, I have this page dedicated to movement and body, and some of the ideas that I have here include yoga nidra, aerial yoga, spin classes, the dark room, the loud music, partner acro yoga. Like all of those ideas are so fun. So the link to this document is going to be in the description. Browse it, see what makes you feel curious, and see if it's actually aligned with the feeling that you want to experience when you're practicing your hobbies. Now, I think it's going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Today we talked a lot about nervous system regulation, so if it's something that you're really interested in, I made a video where I share 7 habits that help me regulate my nervous system. So if you want to keep watching, you can click right here. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in my next video.